Hello, my friends. Jacobs here one more time, and what the heck is going on? They have like professional hits going down in New York City. Professional hits, like something you're watching on one of those spy shows. Very strange stuff. This morning outside of the New York Hilton, you gotta have some money to be outside of the Hilton going into a meeting. The CEO of United Healthcare, Brian Thompson, 50 years old. He goes in there after leaving his hotel across the street. He walks in, and some guy wearing some backpack with a mask, dressed in black, just unloads on him in the morning, right in front of everybody, like no big deal. Then the guy just he walks, cuts down an alley. Then he rents like an e-bike, and then he takes his bike and he rides it into Central Park, and that's last they heard of him. Like some video game. Like Assassin's Creed, which Alex from the Donut Factory on YouTube so brilliantly pointed out. The Olympics opening ceremony, well, the fire that was stolen from the gods, the torch, was carried by an assassin. Even the #1 show right now is The Jackal. All about an assassin. Very strange. In a year where we've had so many attempts on even President-elect Donald Trump's life, where assassination has been something that we're hearing about.
Targeted attack. You see how they keep calling it targeted attack? And this is a mainstream story. They want everybody to know this. This happens the day that they're going to light up Rockefeller Center with the Christmas lights. So massive amounts of people are in New York at this time for the ritual of lighting the Christmas tree. This is a clear message that the mainstream media has been pushing the story. This is a signal to insiders. This is a clear message.
A signal to light the fire, perhaps. The fact that the assassin was carrying the fire of the gods and the Christmas ceremony is taking place in Rockefeller Center, which has Prometheus. It's all about lighting that fire. And just a week ago, we heard about the Rothschild heir that had died in a house fire, but we found out recently that that wasn't true at all. It's actually an imposter. An imposter. All of this is strange, but let's talk more about this CEO. Thompson was named the CEO of United Healthcare, which has been plagued with a lot of stuff we're going to get into because there's a little bit of suspect stuff going on here. If these are one of those shows that you're watching, late night with your wife because she's into all of them mystery, suspense, murder shows, there's a laundry list of probably people that had a problem with the company that he was the CEO for. A lot of people were very damaged. Something like 100 million. I don't know if you remember that huge hack that went down. And one of the stranger things about this event is the fact that they found 3 words written on the bullet casings at the scene. The words deny, defend, and depose, which is actually a book by Judge Jed Rakoff, which is about the American criminal justice system, highlighting the practices of prosecutors and imbalances of power between government and defendants. Overall, Deny, Defend, Depose aims to raise awareness about the systematic problems within the criminal justice system. And seeing how this has to do with insurance companies, the book Delay, Deny, and Defend, Why Insurance Companies Don't Pay Claims, seems to be related. Is this one of those things where the truth is coming out and where people are going to be held accountable? This is the day we're in. But back in February of 2024, Change Healthcare had this huge hack. A lot of people were hurt by this. And Change Healthcare, of course, is connected to this company because the company, that CEO who was just killed, murdered, like something out of a movie. We didn't get the alien invasion, but we have intrigue. Sensitive personal information was stolen. A lot of stuff that you probably don't want people to know about you, not just credit cards and all of that stuff and addresses and everything. You talk about exposed. This exposed a lot of people. A lot of people were hurt by it. It also disrupted healthcare services all over so I mean, people maybe even died. This is actually a pretty big deal, and it's pretty spooky. So the more you look into this story, you start to think, I mean, if this guy's like some kind of a paid killer that came and just did this thing, it has many people questioning a woman who has the best track record for investment, Nancy Pelosi, who just so happened to be purchasing call options for Palo Alto Networks, a leading cybersecurity firm, right around the time of this breach. Not only this breach exposing sensitive information, but disrupting healthcare services across the U.S., affecting pharmacies, hospitals' abilities to process claims and accept payments. And yet, Nancy Pelosi made out like a bandit. And the one person that could say something, if there was a connection, this is all conspiracy, well, now he's dead. Is there something else involved? Those words found on the bullet casings, deny, defend, depose. Sounds to me like insurance claims are denied, and then they defend the reason that they denied the claims, and then you end up in court and they depose the victims who needed the coverage to begin with. Or is there something else? Is it really just an assault on the criminal justice system today, on the courts in America today that seem to be corrupt, especially in a time where we hear of a president pardoning his criminal son, and now more news about other people that probably did horrible things about to be pardoned as well? It's important to note that United Health was already under the government's eye because it paid $22 million in ransom to these hackers. This is the first time that something like this has happened, and it now sets a precedent where this can happen again. Why are we seeing assassins on the street? Especially today, when going down right now is the hearing about the assassination attempt on President Trump's life.
Enforcement officials and former Secret Service agent who provided additional understanding of what went wrong in Butler.
I don't know if you know this, but our own government was going after them because the two of them were going to come together and try to, gobble up another healthcare industry that deals with, nursing homes and everything else and healthcare of the elderly. And it would give them basically like 30% of the market, which wouldn't be that great because that would ultimately affect the patients because, the patient, if you basically own the market and there's nobody else, there's no competition, then, who's the standard? You want to be able to have choice when it comes to your healthcare. If you want to have a good doctor, you want to have a good doctor, right? You don't want to have, this whatever doctor's on hand because that's what they approve. It's like if you don't like the healthcare at this place, you go to this place. You get what I'm saying? Earlier this month, the Department of Justice, they actually tried to kibosh this thing. They filed a lawsuit against United Health Group in an attempt to prevent the merger with Amadeus, one of the leading providers of home health and hospice care in the United States. United Health Group has been expanding into home health care market, and its subsidiary, Option Care Health, is attempting to acquire a $3.3 billion deal. I mean, this is already one of the largest in the country to begin with, so this is interesting. Why would the CEO be so instrumental? Well, because he's in charge of everything, right? So you have all of these little pieces that are coming out. But then the question remains, is the place corrupt? Is it doing some things that are, is it dealing with wrong people? Is this hack somehow connected to, enemies of the United States? As a writer, these are the things that I question sometimes. I probably shouldn't, but I think to myself, I got nothing better to do, right? I got nothing better to do. This is the news. And it's weird, because this is so close to my neck of the woods, because beyond the mental, beyond, the damage that this hack did, there's also a there's a psychological factor here. A lot of people were hurt by this thing that just went down. Now, supposedly everything's restored, and I encourage you to go and do a little more digging into this than I did. I have something else that I really want to talk about. You know what was trending today? What was trending? The name Pete. Isn't that funny? The name Pete. Which that whole thing struck me as odd, of course, because we're talking about this big Daystar scandal, which I'm hoping and I'm putting some faith out there that the truth is going to be known and everybody's going to forgive each other and reconcile, and a big lesson's going to be learned, and Christian TV is going to go in a better direction. But the name Pete has been all over the headlines because this is the name of the so-called, whether it was an employee or member of the family, it's obvious. We all know who it is, but the name Pete was what they were saying. This guy's name was Pete. And I always thought it was strange because, Pete is short for Peter, which means rock. So when you see the name Pete and you think, this is interesting. This is interesting. Why does this name mean something to me? So I didn't know why until I wake up today and I see Pete is trending. And I go, oh my goodness, this Daystar Pete thing blew up. But it wasn't about Daystar. It was about Pete Hegseth, I guess is how you pronounce his name. The talk show host who is also, he was served our country, and he's also, known for some family drama and also being accused of all sorts of bad stuff when it comes to women. I don't know the whole story. Who knows? And he had a drinking problem. So there's some talk that maybe this nomination's not going to go through. His mother was just on TV talking about him, saying, he's a changed man. This was months ago. And I mean, he seems like he has a nice family. And we want to hope that this Pete isn't also, like, you got these two Petes. It's very strange to me. I don't really understand why that is. But, speaking of this whole thing with Pete, for a second, I kind of put it out there because, that was Simon, his name was changed to Peter. Simon, who Jesus said to take over the church, to feed my sheep, to go out and go do the right thing. He said to Peter, this was one of his apostles, who originally was known as Simon. He changed his name to Peter because it means rock. And it was like, this is the rock that I'm going to build my church upon. And he said that the devil's going to sift Peter like wheat, right? And he also knew that he was going to end up denying Christ. But in the end, Peter, he became a big part of the church, and he became a big part of the reason why people like me today, love the Bible and love reading the story in the Gospels and love sharing the story of Christ to others. But the name Pete is very significant because it has to do with a changed life. What also strange about this is that someone gave me a little interesting breadcrumb to take and said, this is Ptah from Egypt. This is where we get Peter from. And now the etymology is not exactly the same. It's a big word, etymology, right? You like that? I look smart when I use big words. But it does kind of sound right. And you know who Ptah is? He's God, the creator. And this is where it gets really strange. Today, Hawk Tuah is actually trending at number 1. You probably remember Haley Welch. She was the one that, glorified giving a BJ. And well, today she's facing a big backlash because of $500 million meme coin that crashed. But what's strange about all this, thing about the name made me think of the Egyptian gods. So I said Hawk is the sun god Ra, Tuah has to do with Utah. And then I asked Elon, I said, well, what say you, Elon? What do you think? And then, of course, 3 weeks and 3 days later, he puts out this post, Hawk Ptah. Ptah being this god. Now, the irony here is that XAI is in the news today because it's expanding its Memphis supercomputer to house at least 1 million GPU. Memphis is the place where the cult of Ptah took off. It was and is the capital of Egypt back in the day. So all of a sudden, Hawk Tuah and Pete and Ptah all come together. There's got to be more. Responsible of bringing everything into existence. So here you have Pete trending. You have Pete also involved in that scandal. And the name Pete could come from, the creator in the Egyptian faith, which I'm not Egyptian, so I don't know, but I find it interesting. Which, by the way, Ptah also reflects the idea that creation came through speaking. Words. Did you know that words have power? Did you know that? Do you know that if you take the S off of the end of words, you put it in before the W, you get sword? Do you know that when Christ comes back, his tongue is like a double-edged sword on fire? Sword, words, your words, purifying words. Why do you think I put stuff out there? In faith, Jesus said if you had faith as a mustard seed, you could say to this sycamore tree, be cast into the sea. Just like I can say to, Jonathan Lamb, Susie Lamb, and Joni Lamb after I did my show. If you want to get a kick out of you want to get a kick out of people that consider themselves to be Christian, go to my comment section on that video. It's something. It's something else. But I can say to them, you know what? You can rewrite. You can have a new chapter. You can be an example of forgiveness. You can be an example of proper judgment. Because all of this that they're going through and all of this that everybody's going through really has to do with the father of all lies. He says to Peter, right? I'm going to sift you like wheat. What do you think's happening with their family? What do you think's happening everywhere today? The devil is trying to sift you like wheat. But what is happening when wheat is sifted? Is that a bad thing? Or is it a good thing? Because you got to take that wheat and you got to shake it and you got to beat it and you got to sift it to get the seed out, to get the wheat out. That's what you got to do. Sometimes if a tree isn't producing fruit, you know what's going to happen? There's going to be a bunch of dung thrown on it so that the tree can grow. The ground is going to be broken up. Branches are going to be cut off. That's what happens when a tree isn't producing fruit. You throw a lot of crap on them. What do you think's going on in the world today with a lot of people? Especially with this Pete situation, because both of them seem to be going through a firestorm of abuse allegations. Horrible thing. But isn't that interesting? That name could also be a name that's relevant today because God is speaking. Who got sifted like wheat? Pete. You see what I'm saying? It's time for us to stand up and rise. It's time to stand up and rise. It's a big deal to be living today. Big deal. It's time to choose. It's time to choose to live better. It's time to choose to forgive. It's time to choose to love. I tell everybody when you come to the show, will you do me a favor? Will you smash the like? Will you share the channel around, do all that stuff? But also, you're going to thirst again if you're not looking on your own, if you're not going to God, if you're not asking for the truth no matter what the cost. If you don't take Christ with you, who sits at this well, you're going to thirst again. You'll come back every time you get... But when the devil's coming to sift you like wheat, you want to make sure that you got God on your side. You want to make sure that you're listening properly. You want to remember that you can take these thoughts captive. If only the lambs knew this, that they could take these fearful, hateful, vengeful thoughts captive and cast them out. And they can start fresh, new. That's what Christ does. The glory of his coming comes in an instant, in a twinkling of an eye. A person who hates can love again. This is the day we're in. This is the day we're in. So I thought all this stuff was interesting, spooky, but maybe God's moving. Maybe there's more to this story that we're going to find out with this United Health Group. Scary. I mean, how terrible too. His family and everything else is going to work. Boom. 50 years old, younger than me. It's a sad thing. You got to let me know in the comments section what you think. And by the way, if you haven't gotten yourself some of the merch, because Christmas is around the corner, go right now, okay? Go into the links in the description. You can get it, everything. You can get the mug. You can get the I'm a meatball, just the meatball hat. You can get all of this stuff. All of it helps the channel. It helps me in a huge, huge way. And if you want to clean things the right way, without using any kind of toxic chemicals and everything else, this is my sponsor. What a great guy. What a great company. TrulyFreeHome.com. Right now they're offering huge deals. And on top of the deals, you enter code Jacob and you get it 30% off. Don't got to worry about toxins. This is stuff that you can spray around your children and not feel weird about. And by the way, their dish soap, when you're using the dishwasher machine, that's so much better. Okay, you don't get any of that gooey stuff that gets stuck behind. You just put it in and then you let it go and it comes out and everything's so squeaky clean. I'm telling you, these products are amazing. It's a great company. If you use code Jacob, you get 30% off, and then it supports the channel as well. Everybody, thank you for my PayPal. Thank you for Patreon. Thank you for any way that you support the channel. It means the world to me. You all mean the world to me. So I love you all, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.